As the end of the season quickly approaches, tonight we bring forth the first of our superfan shows. The SLP is proud to welcome Leanne Hardman from Kansas City in to talk about her Bigfoot encounters and the work she does with the displaced critters on her farm. Does Bigfoot pass through the heartland of America? Find out tonight, along with some news of the week, some El Dorado Bigfoot watch business. It's bound to be an exciting night. And now here's our host, the man with the rockinest beard and Bigfoot, the Reverend Jeff Kelly.
That's right. Often imitated, never duplicated. That's right. I am the Reverend Jeff Kelly, and I am the seeker of truth. With me here tonight is our dear friend Leanne. She is from Kansas City, Kansas. I put Missouri on the paper. I know that's where I put it. I'm sorry, but yes, she is from Kansas City, Kansas, and she will be talking to us tonight. That chat does not go out to the public, Leanne. Just figured you'd like to know that. All right, so we are here talking about Bigfoot. That's right. Leanne has happened to have a couple of encounters with us, and she is going to tell them about it here in just a little while. But as usual, let's get set up to talk about the news. There's just a few things out here I wanted to cover tonight. First things up, woman has intercourse with ghosts, claiming she gave up on men in a new wild video. That's right. Paranormalghost.co.uk. What's going on in Britain, y'all? The incubus has joined upon her. Apparently, there must be a succubus at work, too. She ain't afraid of no ghosts. Apparently, Amethyst Realm 27 says that she has had intercourse with at least 20 different ghosts in a shocking December 7th interview with British TV show. What a slut. I mean, all comers, I guess. I mean, do you have a red light outside your bedroom window there, honey? I mean, how do these ghosts know that they can come bang you? Are you sure they're ghosts, or are they just people wearing sheets? I don't know what's really going on in Britain, but this is hysterical. We should watch the clip because she genuinely believes this. And the reason that I brought this to a Bigfoot show is simply because our Matthew Johnson, the receiver of crotch rubs of Zorth the healer, the orb squatch from another planet through a portal dimension of battery operated goods, is as crazy as this chick is. How do you even answer something like this? I really don't know. Leanne, do you answer something like this, or do you just laugh at it and move on?
Oh, I think I call the men with the little white coats, actually.
Yeah, she needs to be examined, I think.
Yeah.
Either so desperate for attention that she's willing to make up anything, or she's literally got way too many screw loose in her head. Speaking of screw loose in her heads, Harrison opens up the new Sasquatch Museum. Yeah, look at that head, man. What is that supposed to be? I'm not really sure. Apparently, tales of Bigfoot, an enormous hair-covered creature of the forest, have long gone hand in hand with the traditional territory on which Harrison Hot Springs sits. His wood-carved figure guards the entrance to the village, and his big-footed saunter graces the logo for the Stalishes brand. So there you go. Harrison Hot Springs. I wish they would have put something in there that would have had something to do with that. Would have made a whole lot more sense there, people. Harrison Hot Springs is going to open a Sasquatch Museum, and with the amount of Sasquatch sightings that have gone on there and all the research that dear John Green did, I welcome it. I probably someday, if I can get an enhanced driver's license, I will probably travel there and see it with some people. I think it would be a very cool trip to take. All right, moving right along, our favorite sellout. That's right, Dr. Don Jeffrey Meldrum. Yep, he's traveling all over the place to talk about Bigfoot. Not talking about discovering Bigfoot, mind you. Not talking about the exciting work he did with live Sasquatch interaction with the great Todd Standing. No, he ain't talking about none of that. Not even a word. But Jeff Meldrum doesn't believe in Sasquatch. He's a scientist, and scientists don't believe. They rely on evidence. I'm convinced on the basis of evidence, Meldrum said, so I would Much rather say I'm convinced that Sasquatch exists than believe. Idaho State University anthropology professor considered to be the world expert on the scientific evidence regarding the existence of the species of giant bipedal hominids spoke to a wildlife science class at Utah State University on Tuesday in Logan to discuss his research and struggles of pursuing a subject that often meets resistance from his peers. No, you jackass. It doesn't meet resistance from your peers. Your peers are laughing at you. Your peers are seriously have given up on you. I mean, they're not even worth. You're not even worth resisting against anymore. You're a joke, and now you sell out the Todd standing. Well, congratulations, you're a complete joke. Man, Krantz would be rolling over in his grave if he knew what happened to you. Unless Krantz was a con man too. I mean, are you literally the Biscardi to Krantz? I mean, because Biscardi is the protege of Ivan Marks. Are you? I mean, is that what happened here? Did Krantz teach you the special juju to be able to, fluff off all of this crap? I don't know, but if you want to really look it up, Don Jeffrey Meldrum's in the new Discovering Bigfoot documentary that boasts live interaction with Sasquatch, but he doesn't talk about it anywhere ever. Not in public, not on his Facebook page, not in any talks he goes to, not in any conferences he goes to. He just avoids the subject. What's the matter, Don? Embarrassed? Okay, moving right along. Oh, I'm going to catch hell for this. Oh, people, you got to stop slamming down Dr. Meldrum. Yeah, when he stops being a sellout or admits that he's a sellout, then I'll get off of him. Until then, well, people in the public need to know that guy's a joke. The Hoosierist monster mashup. That's right. Have you heard of the Chestnut Ridge monster in Jackson County? What about the Indiana State Parks during the winter? Are you afraid to camp there? The Indianapolis Public Library used to lend out paintings along with books. I don't know what this has to do with anything, but apparently the Hoosiers turned up several references to the above-mentioned entity. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you feel about the middle, it doesn't live in Indiana at all. While Jackson County does include a tiny cluster of homes on a road called Chestnut Ridge, this isn't the place where the alleged monster lives. So the Chestnut Ridge monster is not a Bigfoot, and it doesn't live in Indiana as declared by the Indianapolis Monthly. Thank you so very much for being closed-minded jackasses. You live around those kind of people. I know you're a couple of states south of that, but wow.
Yeah.
How do you just denounce it and say, well, whatever, it doesn't exist? Sorry.
That's the way a lot of farmers believe. They just, even though they got one standing there looking at them in their kitchen window, they still will not believe.
Well, yeah, that's got to be something they can't bear. Hey, here's one from our guy Dean in the Squatchers Lounge. Apparently, the Bigfoot air freshener does not actually smell like Sasquatch. You're not going to be able to use this for your tracking dogs. You're not going to be able to pull this air freshener out and have your Snoopy sniff it and then go find Bigfoot in the woods. Apparently, the rancid and rank of all that damp fur can get is not the smell of these air fresheners. They'd like you to know that these air fresheners smell like pine scent. Basically, it's one of those, taxi cab pine scent tree shaped air fresheners. Yay. And finally, tonight, we're going to finish our rant out a little bit. That's right. Discovering Bigfoot for all of you fools that paid Todd Standing $6.99 to watch it on Amazon. It'll be free on Netflix starting December 15th. Apparently, Scientific Discovery didn't work out so well at the $6.99 per watch on Amazon, and they're going to go ahead and release it on Netflix as of December 15th. So this we'll all get to watch it now. I mean, by next week, anybody who says that I'm such an asshole for cutting on Meldrum for what he does, you watch this film, come back next week, and we'll talk about it, because this is going to be nothing more than a recut shit show of all the stuff that we've already seen. The crappy Sylvanic, Inky, Blinky, and Dinky and Nye. the Sweetums Bigfoot, which is the new one, the blackface one that Meldrum, and I want you to pay real close attention during the interview portions of Meldrum in Discovering Bigfoot. They're so edited together that you can't even find 11 seconds that are uncut. In one 11-second strip where he talks about the blackface devil Bigfoot, there are 3 hard edits just to make it sound as though he's agreeing with Todd Standing in some way or another. Who knows where those actually came from and how they were edited together to make it sound that way, but Meldrum has not come out into the public and announced that he said any of those things. In fact, he hasn't even said that he has said any of those things. He hasn't said anything about it at all. The famous Idaho State University professor is now the star of a Todd Standing Sylvanic production about the greatest Bigfoot evidence of all time. And he doesn't talk about it in public. Leanne, what does that say to you? I mean, seriously.
That he's doing whatever he can to get paid and get his face out there to even more people, so they'll invite him to their conference and get paid, or whatever he can do to get paid. I think that covers it. He wants to get paid.
I mean, you're working with him with Todd Standing, who's one of the biggest hoaxers of all time, has probably done more damage to actual Bigfoot evidence than anybody else, including Dyer and all those other little jackasses. Okay, Todd Standing has literally just tortured us with crap loads of fake Bigfoot stuff. For what purpose? I don't really know. I don't know what the end game is. Maybe he thought that this was going to be his end game and this was going to make him a millionaire and he was going to be able to retire and boo-hoo that he could never get Bigfoot protected while he's laughing all the way to the bank. I don't think that's going to happen for him. I know other people who have released on Netflix and not been lucrative millionaires in the end of it. So I hope it falls flat on its face. I really do. I really hope the guy ends up, with shyster type of money, $1 bills, trash cans full of $1 bills, so you can, cry all your way to the bank of how much money you've actually lost in the end. But none of this evidence has been on the news. None of this evidence has been anywhere besides these crappy documentaries. I mean, people post the pictures every once in a while, in Facebook groups, and they just get laughed at. I mean, it's just like, everybody knows that Todd Standing is a hoaxer. And here, just the first article, they'd like us to believe that he's the most credible expert in all Bigfoot evidence ever. And here we are. He's working hand in hand with the greatest hoaxer of all time. And nobody calls him out on it. Well, I do. I'm one of those people that say, you know what? Screw you, buddy. I'm not going to kneel I'm just not going to kneel at the Meldrum. I'm not going to kneel at the Idol. I was there. I loved that guy. You guys don't really understand. I had a personal interaction, not a relationship. We weren't friends or anything, but there were several interactions with Dr. Meldrum not long before Facebook, ever became a Bigfoot thing. He and I were talking about the Eastern Bigfoot from Florida and the sightings that I had down there. He was very intrigued with it because he didn't really know much about the Eastern Bigfoot at the time. And, I idolized the guy. I really did. I was like, here's a stand-up credible guy who's going to be able to lead science right along with, hobbyists into a great discovery sometime, in the near future. And then this is what it's turned into. It's broken my heart so much so that I can't let it go. And that's really why I kind of harp on it so much. Wow. Am I wrong, Leanne? I mean, is that not the way it went down?
It's exactly the way it went down, and I'm right there with you. I couldn't wait to get his book when it first come out because, all the other crap wasn't so much out there yet for everybody's viewing or reading purposes or whatever. And I was like excited. Yeah, we got somebody on our side. And yeah, it slowly tears pieces of your heart out until there's just this big hole with each new thing that he does. And then when he said, I believe I'm looking into the eyes of a real creature. Whatever, man. I mean,
well, that's the actual edits that I'm talking about. Well, what's funny is I actually happen to have that. Let's take 11 seconds. We're going to talk about it so that it's under cop, so that it's under fair use.
Especially that video of the devil, as you refer to him, the dark-faced individual. I can't look at that image and not feel that I'm looking into the eyes of a living creature.
Did you hear those 3 hard edits?
Yeah.
I mean, they literally cobbled that together. He never actually said that. They cobbled it together to make it sound like he said it, but you can hear 3 different volume levels. They literally cobbled that all together. So, but he's never come out in public and said that he hasn't said it because he doesn't want to admit that he actually did it. I'm like, is Meldrum thinking that he has a double or something? I don't know. It's just so frustrating to see that go down. And anyhow.
But the fact that he just showed up with the guy, period, after, by the time he did show up with the guy,
Right.
it was out there about Todd being a fraud. So,
right. And his comments were, well, I never really made an educated decision upon it because I never really got to see the raw evidence. And then Standing promised to let Bill Munns take a look at the raw footage, and that never happened. And Meldrum worked with him. And then he did Bigfoot North for 6 months. And he was talking about a interspecies communications woman. What? Anyhow, it'll be in Bigfoot, Discovering Bigfoot. Y'all will see it. It's freaking atrocious. Anyhow, speaking of not things that are atrocious, let's get into things that are wonderful. And we're going to get a quasi rewind from our great quasi theorist, Mr. Dean Cooper, about the great fat one. No, not me. This guy. And now, quasi theories from a quasi scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
Santa is the king of the gods. Santa Claus, aka St. Nicholas, is a fraud foisted on us pagans during the Christianization of Germanic and Nordic Europe. There, I said it. St. Nicholas, who lived in the late 3rd and early 4th century, belonged to a wealthy family and is most famous for saving 3 poor young sisters from a probable life of probable prostitution by giving them money for their dowries and thereby getting them married off. Why a man getting paid off to marry a woman doesn't make the man a hooker beats the hell out of me. But that is neither here nor there. The main point is that Nicholas gave away presents. His birthday is celebrated on January 6th. He was a skinny bugger, apparently, may or may not have had a beard, and certainly didn't have much hair. His daddy, another priest, this was before the whole priest couldn't get married, couldn't have sex silliness came about, gave him a tonsure when he ordained his little Nicky into the priesthood. A tonsure is the weird, partly shaved head sort of haircut they were into back then. Old St. Nick didn't have diddly to do with December 25th, which is when the old pagan world celebrated the winter solstice. Why they did so on the 25th is a bit of a mystery, since they jolly well knew the solstice oscillates between the 20th and the 23rd. It was probably because the latest sunrise of the year is a couple of days after the actual solstice, and in the winter, you really want that sun to start coming up earlier and earlier. Making it a fixed date made it easier to know when you had to get all your solstice shopping done by, too. Now, what happened on the solstice, and who did what that most closely resembles what our Santa Claus did, taking into consideration that Santa first started showing up in Germanic and Nordic Europe. The solstice is when Odin, the king of the gods, rode the winter sky on his 8-footed horse, Sleipnir, distributing gifts to all his people. Odin, Woden, Wotan, also known as Yulnir, who is the lord of the Yuletide. Woden, with long white hair and long white beard, stout of figure. Odin, the leader of the wild hunt, the hunt that most often occurred at midwinter, hunting the souls of the departed, accompanied by his Valkyries. The good children of Odin got presents. The bad got the wild hunt. Odin was also the lord of Elfheim, the home of the elves. And those elves were not little guys who wanted to be dentists. They were fierce warriors, they were. The pieces fall into place. This is what Christianity has left us with. No more Roman Saturnalia at the winter solstice with its orgies and feasts. No more wild hunts with Valkyries. No king of the gods. Just jolly fat man in a silly red suit. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. It's BHAIDIN.com.
That's right. Check it out at bydean.com. gmail.com. And when he's talking about a silly fat man, he's not talking about this silly fat man.
There's a funny fat man in a silly red suit stuck in the smoke hole of our teepee.
No need but a goodie. Thank you, sir, Mr. Dean Cooper. Hey, we've still got to get through a camp of tips for stupids from our buddy at Gone Camping. If you haven't, go over there and subscribe and click his little bell area, and you can see a bunch of stuff that goes on that channel over there. So let's take a listen to this week's tip.
Camping tips for stupids. Tip number 55. Wintertime is the best time for any and all excuses for cooking on the campfire. Throw away that hippie new age propane camp stove in the trash, because it's time for a man's way of cooking with fire, real fire, hot fire. Using fire, cause America. Cooking in the winter time on a campfire is great for two things: warmth, food, and just because. You ever tried eating frozen food without a sledgehammer? Then get yourself a campfire. God made food to be cooked outdoors. That's why it smells and tastes so much better and attracts all the wildlife, so you can make more food. Now, a lot of major campgrounds will provide a fire pit with the usual oversized fire ring and thick bar grill. Just flip that solid monster over and build a fire under it, and cook your brains out. The more unusual ways are using a Dutch oven. You can roast whole chickens in those sons of bitches, and great for stews, or boiling dirty laundry during the apocalypse. Tripods are also a neat way of cooking over an open fire. There are even grills for them for you Texan steak lovers out there. Or go the classic whole boar on a spit way for you cannibal bastards out there. This has been Camping Tips for Stupids. Remember to spay and neuter your idiot population.
Well, there you go, folks. Cooking food was made outdoors by Morgan Freeman. Apparently that's the way that goes these days. Thank you, Jevin. More from Going Camping. Hey, let's go out there to hang out and say howdy y'all to the people that are hanging out there, because that's what we usually do. There's a bunch of people in here tonight, and I do appreciate y'all chatting it away. Let's see. We've got cans, Squatch. Yeah, there you go. I'm sure there are cans of Squatch, and I appreciate that. Gone Camping, of course. Jevin Moore is there. I got a little bit of Ken. Excuse me. Hey, there's Ken. He's out there. Brown Dwarf. That's right. He's hanging out with us. There's a Keith Harden as well as our quasi theorist, Mr. Dean Cooper. Baha Rata Mila Kunis. Let's see here. Jonathan Doty's in the house, as well as Natalie Smith. Mr. Kurt, the Music Man of Harris, join us tomorrow, 5 p.m. for Vinyl Power. That's right. It's another podcast that I do. Let's see here. Timothy McCune, how are you, sir? Shanta should wear a hat with horns. That's right, because he was a Viking. Go Pack. That's right. Go Pack. How you doing? Chubbs 008. That's right. Great Odin's Beard. Rod Dupree, he's in the place to be. That's right. He's got a new wrench that he can swing his tool around out there with. There we go. There's more people. Just me. Hello there. That's right. He, a.k.a. Manho. I believe we were talking about Dr. Meldrum at that particular moment. You're a Hobo Man 5. How you doing there, sir? Yep, disappointing what's going on with Dr. Meldrum. I agree. 150,000%. percent. There's more. Mr. Cameron Young checking in live. How you doing? Meldrum is like Darth Vader. He was good and becomes evil. That's absolutely a good analogy, Cameron. I appreciate that. Sam Squanch Rivera, he's in the house. What was that? I think that was a Sasquatch. Starshine's in the house as well. Squatch Box and Christopher's checking in tonight. I'm not lying to you, Christopher. Potatoes are vegetables. They really, really are. Lance Windsor, how you doing, sir? So glad you are back with us. He did not abandon us. His internet broke decayed. So that's what happened to him last week. We're going to try and get that rescheduled. Christopher is out here as well. Wow. Somebody got timed out earlier. Looks like Rodney was swinging that hammer. I appreciate that, sir. Michael Bird, how you doing? He's in the house with us as well. Yeah, I see a Becky Lloyd message deleted by Rod Dupree. I guess she wasn't very happy. I'm sorry. Sometimes I just got to laugh at people. I got people that watch my back. That's all that matters to me. Tie Fighter 33, how you doing? Glad you're here with us. Of course, I got Leanne, Oreo Cream Rock. She's sitting right there with the big purple Sam Squanch. She's going to be right up here with us. I know there's more people that I don't want to miss. Tyrone Green. It's been a long time since I said that name on the air, man. Glad you are live with us as well. There's more people than this. I can sing, it's just horrible when I don't. Candy Apple's in the house. Forrest Cop. How you doing? Hi, my name's Forrest Cop. People like to call me Forrest Cop. Glad you are back. Missed us for a couple of weeks. We're so glad you're here. Molina Outdoors. What's up, air members? Well, we hiding in the house. Hey, don't forget to swing over to the Huck Outdoors channel and the Pharaoh channel. There's a couple of really cool videos from Area 51. Those guys were out there stealth camping and checking out the UFOs, man. They got to eat at the little alien cafe, and there might be a little bit of Reverend Jeff Magic in that video somewhere. See if you can spot it. Let me know if you can spot the Reverend Jeff Magic inside of Pharaoh's video, because that'll be hysterical. Robe, how you doing? Timothy McCune. Not sure if I said hi to you yet, but I'm saying it now. Josh B. Cersei. Wow, that's like a $3 handle there, man. I hope you paid for that one. Eagle Cries. Hello, hello, hello. We're getting to the top now because I see my own name. Natalie Smith is she's always great. She got answers for everything. Just don't want to miss anybody. Shane Barber. Danny from Texas. James the Grower. That's right. They are all there at the top of the mess. So let's get back down to the bottom and see if I missed any latecomers. I sure enough did. See, there's Connie Martin. How are you? So glad you are with us. This thing is bouncing all over the place and water spilling everywhere. And if I go offline, I'm sorry. Crap. Hate it when the bong water spills. Seriously, not good.
Clean up in aisle 2. Clean up in aisle
on
2.
The Reverend's desk. Thank God it's only low voltage stuff. And it's not dripping down onto my laptop. I think we're okay. Win! All right, let's see here. Sorry about that, folks. Sometimes it happens live on the air, and you just can't do nothing about it. Bless it. Now I'm all shook up for a month. D the Sun. Hey, what is up with you as well? I think that about covers everybody. Everybody. That's right. I think there we go. Nope. There's a Shaman Cola. Hello. Hello. That's right. Don't bogart that bong, you jackass. Whew. All right. Here we go. That wraps it up. Thanks, guys, for watching live tonight. There's actually more people watching live right now tonight, Leanne, than we have had all season long. So that tells me that the season is ending on a very, very strong note. Now, Leanne, tell us where you're from there, because I get it wrong all the time.
I'm in Linwood, Kansas, which is just south and west of Kansas City, Kansas, right next to Kansas City, Missouri. There's just a river between us. Takes about 3 minutes to get across it, and that's it. So
unless it's snowing or there's jackasses with a Swift truck that's jackknifed.
Well, there's that.
Was it a Swift? Was it a Swift truck that was jackknifed? I'll bet you.
No, it was SLP something. I don't know. It was a big yellow truck, but I was
Anybody
coming
that
back
actually
and-
drives semi knows exactly what I mean when I ask him it was a Swift driver that had them
Yes.
checked. Because they're
I
almost.
used to live right next to their headquarters. No.
Oh God, poor woman. All right, so let's see here. Let's bring up a quick map here of where we're talking about, so that everybody's kind of not lost, and that'll help us, especially since your picture doesn't work. There you go. That'll give you a little bit of an idea. You see right here, this river we're talking about. This is Missouri over here, and this is Kansas over here. And now this is Wyandotte County, and she's down here in Leavenworth County, right?
I am. See that
By the
little
DeSoto
point
River. Yeah, right down in
there?
here.
Yeah, that little point. That's about where I'm at. Yep.
All right, so you can see why we brought these up. And, there's a couple of BFRO reports that come out of that particular area. Let's give them a quick look right. 1976, January in the wintertime in Leavenworth County, there are military police find tracks at Fort Leavenworth. Was stationed at Fort Leavenworth in 1976, assigned to the 205th Military Police Unit. One of our duties was to guard the CAC building in the fort. This is the most important building on the base, and it's what's called the command staff. Blah, 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 blah. I found myself on duty at the CAC. Sorry. Yeah, dude, there's a lot of military crap in here. Apparently, here we go. We did not see the footprints one evening down along the river. I was impressed by the size of things. They were 14 to 16 inches long, but the width was what was really shocking. They were 6 to 7 inches wide. It was almost like a snowshoe at the ball of the foot. It was fresh snow and back in the heavy stuff. Now you were talking about you were talking about the some of the people over there at, nobody saw what we were talking about earlier. The military people finding or having sightings over by the base.
All the time. And, as elite military personnel knows that as soon as they get that rest day, they're off base and out in the bars, which was my hangout too for a while. And we shared all kinds of stories. They had Class A sightings on more than one occasion, especially when they were doing their cold weather type of preparation, when they'd be right down on the river in the water and stuff. And it's like, well, why don't you guys tell your stories out for everybody to hear? Your military people will respect what you say you saw. And they told us that we're under orders not to discuss it. And I'm like, so why are you telling me? No. And they're like, we can talk about it as long as we don't talk about it publicly to the news or anything like that. Anything that reflects back on the Army. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's swing over here to the Wyandotte County here and take wintertime 2014 December time. I-70, right going through Edwardsville, Kansas. Recently was sitting at a computer at 6 a.m. No one else was up in the house and no lights were on in the neighborhood. A loud whoop in my backyard. I had never heard this sound before. It was very loud in the house and early in the morning. No one else was up. My house is very sound limited from the outside, and this was very loud. I got up and looked on my back deck to see. It was too dark to see anything. It sounded like it was in my backyard. Never saw anything or heard anything like this before, and I'm an outside person, very observant, and I know animals in my area. I've even seen cougars, fox, and deer. One of those whoop things, and that's a very distinct thing. I play those types of whoops for people, and they let's see here. This is one of those here. That's very in the distance from where our recorder had actually picked it up. But when you hear one of those things up close and it's crystal clear and it's like right there, the hair on the back of your neck stands up, your immediate fight or flight response starts to kick in because you don't know what the hell that was. And, it just gets creepy, especially when you can't identify what it was in your own backyard.
The growl's even worse than the whoop.
Yeah, I don't like things that. Well, I understand growls, and there's a lot of weird ones out there. But boy, when they're deep and guttural and shaking trees at you. All right, the retired cop sees a large hairy biped dash right in front of his car near Kansas City. On Kansas City 7 by US 73 highway, about 0030 hours, Mr. Military. It's about 12:30 a.m. for you other folks. February 10th, 2015, give or take 30 minutes. What do you mean? Whatever. Okay. I was on my way. Was it midnight or was it 12:30, douche? I mean, I was on my way home from work. I work in Overland Park, Kansas, and I live in Lansing, Kansas, and I've been working on a special project, and my hours were whatever, whoever, yada, yada, yada. On K7 highway, just past Leavenworth Road, near Falcon Estate subdivision, when a very large animal darted across the road in front of me, running on 2 feet. I did not slow down, and it was only able to see the back of the animal. The only thing in my mind right now might be the fur pattern that I saw. The fur looked like a little longer than the average man's hair, which would make the hair about 2 to 3 inches and a little darker in color than tan, but a lighter color than the color of brown, more of a dirty blonde. It had waves in the hair, almost curly in areas, and it was larger and faster than any deer that I've ever seen in the area. The size could be as large as a horse or elk. It's an odd size comparison.
Yeah, we don't have elk around here at all.
Oh, and I'm glad that I did not hit it, because its size, it would have totaled my car. I cannot be 100% sure, but it could have been a Bigfoot. The tailbone was about even to the middle of the driver's side window of a Ford Focus. I was just amazed by the fur color and the texture. The hair description sounds about on point with some of the other, types of up close passing Sasquatch encounters that people come across. Now, Leanne, you've joined us, of course, tonight because you're here to bestow upon us. You live on a little farm in Kansas. Tell us about your setup there.
I got 11 acres of my own, and most of my acreage is timberland. I have, obviously neighbors on each side, but the one that's behind me is also very timbered until it comes out into a massive cornfield. And the cornfield backs up on the water that's back there. It's called Stranger Creek. It's a very large creek, and it dumps into the Kansas River not too far from my house, which creates all kinds of sandbars in the area. And you can almost walk across the river at that point a lot of times on just the sandbars alone. Depends on if they've been dredging it a lot. But the Kansas River, I don't know if you'll be able to see Stranger Creek in there. Way out in the Big Bend, I think that's it down there. But maybe you might see it.
That's Cedar Creek down there in the Big Bend.
Okay. There's another Big Bend up above. It's hard for me to not be able to maneuver the map, but
yeah,
there is a pretty good bend not too far.
There's another little creek there. That's Kill Creek.
Kill Creek. That's south. We need to go a little bit further north.
Further north than the Big Bend. I'm not seeing any.
Well, we see Call Valley Highway 32. Anyway.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
yeah.
Leavenworth
there
Road,
we go.
Call
There's
Valley
32.
and all that. We're just out the I-70 if you want to look at it that way. But there's a lot of timber on my property. I grow fruit. I grow a big garden. My neighbor grows a big garden, and he gets irritated because things disappear a lot from his place too.
There it is. Live Craw Creek. Little Craw Creek.
That's one of them. Wolf Creek is in there, but Stranger Creek is the big one.
Okay. Well, Wolf Creek and Little Craw are there, so we're in the right area.
But yeah, we're in the right area. Most of the land close to me is part pasture and part timber. All the fence lines and everything like that are heavily treed for the most part, even in the growing fields. So it looks like Bottom Springs right there in the middle. So that's pretty darn close. I'm a little further west than that, but the river curves back around my way where it meets up with Stranger Creek. But there's also a lot of other food crops all around us, all types of grain. There's orchards. There's a lot of
You know,
vineyards. That fella, the cops report, you talking about Falcon Crest Estates. There are
mhm.
tons of orchards and vineyards in that area. I mean, we're talking miles of grapes and apples in that
You know,
area.
and when
So
you zoom out in the satellite and you actually look at the way the Kansas River system runs, all this extra runoff is, those are floodplains that go along with the river
yep.
system itself. These would have to be animals that were there long before we congested the area as well. You might be dealing with, a leftover population that's moving around and surviving on what it can. Now, your particular property is special in a way that the ones around you are not. And how is that?
Say that again. You kind of cut out on me.
Oh, your property is kind of special in the area. I mean, it seems that you get all the animals dumped on your property when it floods out.
Well, yeah, we're up on the highest point in my particular area. There's probably at least 100 feet above everybody else, at least. So yeah, we have anybody that's either to our east or west that has farm animals. They're all in flood zones. So we're the only place that has a high ground that we can also contain the animals. So a lot of times people start showing up when it floods here, because we've had flooding really bad this summer in our area. And people know that we're the high ground because they've been living here for centuries almost, some of them. But they know that this is where their stock will be safe and contained. So a lot of them will show up, but some of them will just open their pens and the animals find their own way to the high ground. Because either way they go, they're in a floodplain. They can only come to us, or they're cut off by I-70 on the north side. So we are it. So my neighbors will got a little bit of land that stays above, and he helps out when he can as well. My neighbor across the street, part of her property stays up on that hill without dropping down in there, but she's got a lot of groundwater on her property too. I'm just thankful our little spring is able to, in our pond in the overflow, was able to drop it off down onto the floodplain and not back up even further on our place.
Now you've
So,
actually seen a Sasquatch or two in your time. Why don't you tell us about that?
well, first I want to say I kind of had a unique experience when I was 5 with finding my first track when we were out mushroom hunting in the area. So I was raised with the idea that Bigfoot was just part of the normal flora and fauna in our area, and I didn't really afraid of it until I got older and realized what it could possibly do. But that kind of got me started, and my interest piqued by the stories that were shared with me with some of the other local tribes in the area. A tribe member was with us that morning, so. But the ones I actually saw when I moved, this was family farm, by the way. I moved back to after my mother became ill, and I came back to take care of it. We'd only been back for a couple of years, and I had already noticed that things were a little bit different out here, just walking around and kind of seeing what kind of the critter situation was like around here. And a lot of the smaller animals don't seem to be as active, but we've got a massive coyote pack. Some people, talk about coyotes and Bigfoot going hand in hand.
Yeah, I'm one of the things Bigfoot kind of follows coyote backs and kicks them off their kills.
Right.
I think it's a whole lot easier to eat that way than it is to chase down a deer. Let the coyote pack kill it, and by the time you get caught up to them with their dead deer, you just think about it. You're a 500-pound Sasquatch. You kick that mangy damn just like a human would. Just like a human would. If I was hungry, I would follow the coyotes and I would kick them the hell off their kills and grill up that meat. But that's just me. That's one of my theories or hypothesi.
Well, we'd had a little bit of trouble with coyotes, so when I heard my horses acting just absolutely nuts, they were stomping and snorting and blowing, and you could tell they were really scared. So I went out on my back deck, and I didn't turn the porch light on because didn't want the animals to run off. I wanted to see what I was dealing with. And movement caught my eye. First, I saw my horses. And they were both white, so they're easy to spot. and they were both looking in the same direction. Then I heard some noises, and it took me a minute to kind of figure out what it was. That it was the sound of water trickling, and I couldn't kind of really place what that was. I'm thinking, spigot? No, spigot's dry. And then the movement really caught my eye, and lo and behold, drinking from our horse's water tank were two Sasquatch. Two of them. One big, one medium. One was definitely a female. She probably stood, I don't know, I'm guessing from measuring the height of the water tank that she was about 8 feet. And her youngling that was with her was probably getting close to like teenage years and probably was around 6 foot. Her hair and his hair were slightly different colors. She was a little bit darker chestnut color, more of a reddish tinge, with the sun bleaching to almost like a blonde on the crest of her head. And you definitely could tell that she had a crest on her head, as did the little guy.
Right.
I think it's a guy. I didn't see any parts on the little one. But you could see that line, that V line of the sun exposure, where it would be somebody would get sunburn if they had their t-shirt off in the summer. Same area was sun bleached on her back to that light blonde.
Right.
And then the little guy was more of a brown color, and then he too had kind of sun bleached out, but not as light as hers was. She had very large breasts. She was very stocky. I would have, in my mind, pictured a Sasquatch, normally bending over to drink, I would think. But maybe, I don't know. They were drinking with their hands. They were actually scooping the water up out of the tank and bringing it to their mouth.
And that's the kind of report that I'm used to hearing when they're drinking is they are actually scooping it up by the handfuls, usually both hands, not just one hand though. They kind of use their hands as a bowl and pull it up to their mouth and kind of pour the water down their throat more so than slurp it.
The water I was hearing was running off the hair of their arms.
Right, dripping down their elbows.
Yep. So yeah, I just stood there and watched. I clearly did not know I was out there. They drank their fill. The little one kind of turned. He was kind of sideways to me. I was looking at him more of in a profile with his back turned, so I couldn't really see any facial features on either one of them, because she was also in profile to see her breast, but you could still tell that her head had that high point on it, and his did a little bit. I wonder if they get that more later in life.
That's a lot of
the muscles.
A lot of the reports that I read, they have a point, because they have those same mandibles that the adults get. But just like humans, we kind of grow into our jawline. Where we're born with our original eyes, they kind of stay the same size all of our life. Your jaw and things kind of grow along your lifetime as your teeth come and go. And it must be something to do with the muscle structure that kind of gets up there, that your brain or your body, as it would, your cranium still grows. Right. So I think they would develop that final look of the Sasquatch look. People that see juveniles say that they're kind of big-headed bobble dolls almost. They're kind of goofy looking a little bit, because of their head shape doesn't really fit the adults, especially when they're seen together. That was one of the things that Justin had said about his encounter, seeing the adult and then shooting the juvenile. And that's, if you look at the artist renditions of that, they kind of they kind of exuberate that the juvenile's head was a little bit more bigger, and it wasn't as pronounced to the point like the adults was. And I think that's goes right hand in hand with a lot of the reports that are out there. Not saying that all Bigfoot look the same, just saying that there aren't 4 types of Bigfoot.
Right. And I think he was getting there. And I wonder if now, because this was a few years ago, if he's not heading into his sexual maturity at this point. People have been complaining about finding some trees snapped off and stuff in the area. That wasn't storm related, because we haven't had any storms for a while. And my neighbors, I don't know what he's been shooting at. He won't talk about it, but he's been shooting at night. And I hope he's not just out there going crazy. But anyway,
Randomly shooting at noises in the dark is not a good thing.
exactly. But that night, they didn't, act hurried or anything like that. I think that summer was the last summer of the big drought we went through, and I think our spring in the back of the property had gone dry, and they were desperate because the creek had gone way down for some good clean water because the water was foul in the creek at that point.
I had been told another story, and it slips my mind right now who told me the story. I want to say it may have been our friend Kip Morrill. It may have been somebody else. I'm sorry if I'm giving credit to somebody else. A story of another Sasquatch sighting on a property with a water trough on it during a drought time, where the animals literally came up to it and drank. They didn't really have a description of how they drank out of it, other than they weren't hunched over it, with their heads in it, slurping out of the water like a dog. They were bringing the water up to their faces and drinking from it. I think these animals that are in these types of locations, these are leftovers. These are remnants of pods and probably large groups of these animals that were there. But as we talked about it over Oakland, Oakland, California used to be the largest grove of living oak trees on the planet before they cut it all down to make houses. But up above Oakland, there's parks that are saved where redwoods and oak trees still grow to their full, their first generation growth that are still up there. And in 1898, two hunters actually saw what they called gorillas, upright walking gorillas, walking around while they were hunting. It's a famous sighting. How long would a small population of Bigfoot be able to breed in an area like this until they got into genetic problems? Hundreds of years. 200-300 years. I'm looking at the map here, and I'm being realistic to the areas that they would be able to move and survive upon. And it's going to be, to the west side of the river, and it's going to be along all of this farmland, all of these tree laden areas down by the river. You could have hundreds of animals living down there, spread over that. That's miles of population there, anywhere around this area. And what you're saying that their backs were bleached from the sun, says that they're probably, hanging out exposed in the back ends of some of these fields that aren't being used. They've been there. They understand how people work. Animals do find your pattern of habits. If you're thinking of that something's following you, you've got to break your pattern of habit to see if it actually is. So yeah, you could have several large populations of Sasquatch in this area still living and breeding and coming up with new generations without really much genetic pressure on them.
And if there is anything to them living in the caves, you can't really see it on here too much, but at the top of what you're showing right there, you can see the sand actually in the river right there. And there's caves all along in that area as well. And as you follow the river down south, they become more sporadic. But everywhere you see the big sandbar areas, there's cave systems in here. And we sit on one of the largest aquifers in the country. And part of that aquifer dumps out a little bit further south, closer to the Oklahoma line. And it pushes sand backwards, they say, up the Kansas River. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but I do know there's caves everywhere. That's probably where the water has eroded through eons of time. Because you can tell by looking at the middle of our property that there used to be an ancient water source that ran right through the middle of our property. That's gone now.
Yeah, this whole area on Satellite is ridiculously. It's why it's why we grow food here. This is a pipeline through America is what this is. The further back you go, we're not even in Kansas anymore, and you can see the same water pipeline is running clear across the country.
Right.
Just like we scroll all the way out, we know that the water systems basically run all the way down into Florida and dump into the Atlantic Ocean. So anyhow, I appreciate that. I love the story. The whole bringing their hands down into the water and kind of bringing them up as bowls and letting it pour into their mouth and letting it run down their arms is, I can see that in my mind, and them not being rushed while you were sitting there watching them is the coolest thing. Because my sightings are short, man. I mean, one dude came out the woods. I was expecting to see a buck, and he down a little embankment and crossed over the game trail and pulled himself up into the tree line and was gone. That's the fellow with the big friggin' softball nuts swinging from him. The other one in Florida, the actual encounter lasted a long time. It started out as a C with just some sounds. Then it became a B where it was whooping and shaking stuff along the canal on us. And then it became an A when we came around the corner and the sucker was crouched down behind a damn palm frond. But the actual eyeball, face-to-face encounter with that thing was, again, 20 seconds before he started throwing poop at us. And I was holding on for my dear life as the guy driving the boat was trying to fling me out of it to get away from it. To have that kind of encounter where you can, actually sit and observe for a little while and get some good detailed observations that in anecdotal evidence later will be very important.
Yeah, that's why I went out and actually measured the height of the tank so I could get an idea of actually how tall she was. And it was just under 4 feet from the ground where she was standing up. The tank itself was kind of tilted a little bit, so I took that into account. But I wish it had been in a different spot where she could have left tracks. It was so dry, or they could have left tracks, but her in particular, so I wouldn't wanted to know how big her feet was. But they just turned, and with the tree line being so close, I probably got to watch them take maybe 5 steps, and they were back into the tree line. But I got to watch them for probably close to a minute before I even thought to go get my husband and go, look. He was
They are
in the
real.
shower at the time.
They absolutely are real.
So that's when I really became a knower.
Well, if you guys have any questions, now is the time to post it in the chat room. I'll get to them at the very, very end of the show here for a moment. A few people showed up here late. Say hi to Collier Wilmus. That's right. He is the announcer man. He finally showed up in the house. Yeah, that lady apparently was defending Dr. Meldrum vehemently, and Rodney put her in her place. So that's the way to do it, Rod. That's what I gave you that. That's what I gave you that tool for. Connie Martin, if I didn't say hi to you before, I certainly have now. I think I saw who else showed up late. A brave bird saved. Hello there, sir. I don't think I said anything to you earlier. And Gorgaruga. There you go. That's the best I can do for you. Howdy. Glad you're here. Mr. Fang 33 is here as well. Hello there, people. Glad you're with us. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. Anyhow, let's get back to it. How do you feel that you have a resident population there, or is it just something that they kind of cross through your property? Is it more of a certain time of year, or is that just kind of what you're still trying to get grasp of what's going on there?
I'm a little bit more sure that they at least winter here. They come in the fall time, like when my fruit is ripe in my garden, my later garden type of items are available, like the squash and things like that, is usually when the activity kind of picks up a lot. Because for 2 years preceding this one, when I finally beat them to the apples tree this year, they picked me clean overnight.
Yeah, I've had a couple of apple incidents myself where every apple on the tree up to 12 feet was picked in an evening.
Yes.
It's like the guy drove home from work. It was daylight. The apples were on the tree. He went out there at like 7 o'clock to get some apples off the tree to make a pie, and he had to get a ladder out because they weren't on the tree anymore.
Exactly.
And we did a full investigation on that one and found that, something came by here and picked them with no ladder. You figure it out.
And they left me a present, I think, because I don't know, maybe this is something that some of the other cat people in the audience could help me with. I've never seen a cat actually pick up a frog or a toad in its mouth. ever. And the very first time the apples disappeared, one of the biggest bullfrogs I had ever seen was laying at the bottom of my patio stairs with one of its back legs ripped off. Not eaten, ripped. There were no teeth marks in it anywhere. And the poor frog was just laid out there. And I have no explanation for what that could have been. Maybe, I mean, I can't see a raccoon going all the way across the road to get a bullfrog out of the pond, dragging it back across the road and eating it on my porch. But
I always have an issue with them like leaving gifts for people. It's just
I didn't either until I got one.
Well, something left it there. I mean, we're
Right.
definitely not. I mean, I'm not going to say that something didn't leave a dead frog, or did it just die?
Several, yeah.
It's weird. I can't remember any of the cats that I've ever lived with. I've never owned a cat, but I've had to live with some of them miserable little bastards. And they bring snakes, mice, and squirrels, birds. Can't really remember any frogs. And we lived in frog territory. We had a frog pond across the street. You're right. I can't really remember it really messing with the frogs much because they were in the water and it didn't really like the water stuff. Dumbasses. Anyhow, I think we're going to wrap up this edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. Leanne, you have been a fantastic guest. I appreciate your insight into the double squatch sighting. I mean, really, she had huge boobs, huh? I mean, knee shoot. Give them the knee shooters, Johnny. Okay.
D-cup at least.
Well, you think he might have been done nursing, but how fast does a Sasquatch grow?
Right.
That really does become the question. Apes grow very, very slowly in the wild. A gorilla will be with its mom, for a while. I don't even think they're not as long as humans, but I do know that like a mama gorilla won't even breed but every couple of years because she has such a dependency of its baby on it. Very strange. But anyhow, check out Discovering Bigfoot before next week. I'm going to put a poll up in the Squatchers Lounge podcast, in the main group. I'm going to put up a poll. I'm going to start hard locking the dates for some of the early campouts for the El Dorado Bigfoot Watch. The first one's going to be in May. And I need to know from you guys out there, if you're coming, even if you're not coming, if you'd be able to plan to come, would it be better to run a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or is it better to run a Friday, Saturday, Sunday? I know a lot of people can't get a full weekend off, and I can run them any days that I need to be able to run them for the ability for most people to be able to come. That's why I'm announcing the dates months in ahead, so you can schedule some vacation time and actually do it. But would it just be easier to do like a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or is it going to be easier to do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Because that's going to affect the dates that I can reserve the large campground out there in the El Dorado National Forest. So I'm going to put it up there. You can leave it in the chat room if you want to. There is going to be an after hangout afterwards. Leanne, I'll send you a link to it here in a minute. And I have a Bigfoot campfire story to go out on tonight, the part 4 of Fox the Bigfoot. Leanne, do you have any final thoughts tonight?
No. Hopefully, the activity will continue around here and we'll get some good evidence to present sometime on the show.
Well, we sure hope you are welcome back anytime. I will be glad to review any evidence that you find. You know that. And with that, everybody, let's check the chat room here. I didn't see any direct questions for you. So we appreciate everybody being out there live and enjoy part 4 now of Fox the Bigfoot. I will have part 5 finished and released before next week. Thanks, everybody, for being here. And may the Squatch be with you. You guys hear that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that's a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. Welcome back to Bigfoot Campfire Stories. In this edition, we continue on with the saga of Fox the Bigfoot. We go back and picture our 1930s old farmhouse construction, run down, white with weathered paint, the front and back porch with broken screens. When we last saw Fox the Bigfoot, he had met and begun a courtship on the property of the Carter's farm. Young Jenny, now grown up in control of the farm after her parents had passed on. We pick up the saga some years later, after many more encounters. Jenny tells us more of the story. I suppose I should start out with a little backstory about what's happened the last few years. After Fox and his new love of his life, we call her Daisy, coupled together, we didn't really see much of them. Long periods of time would go by without a sight or sound. Then one day, I was walking down by the creek, and I saw a new Bigfoot that I'd never seen before. I had come down by the creek along the path as always, and that's when I noticed the juvenile Bigfoot across the water, and I hunched down by a bush to watch it. Well, I'm here. That little one can't be more than 4 or 5 years old. Where's your papa? Then I noticed Daisy appear out of the shadows and clutch the little one by the hand. Well, there's your mama. Wow, she's grown. The last time I saw her, she was only 6 feet tall. Now looking at her, she's at least 7 feet, and her hair is reddened quite a bit. How beautiful. Just then I heard a familiar whoop come from a short distance off. Daisy then returns the call, and the little one attempts with just a little squeak, making me giggle. Ah, there's your papa out there somewhere. Is that a little baby on your mama's back too? As Daisy turned to move away from me, a very young Sasquatch baby I could be seen clinging to her back around her neck. Oh my, it truly is. So amazing these beings are. Well, after that, it was another long time before we had saw them again. My husband and I were out working on the downed trees from a storm really early one morning. My husband, John, didn't feel like running the chainsaw for these little trees, so he grabbed up the axe and was taking his time swinging and cutting the little one's back. And that's when we spotted Fox alone on the far side of the field. John asked me, "Isn't that one of your Bigfoot family?" Why, sure enough, it is. It's Fox, and he's huge. He must be 8 feet tall. Well, I took out my binoculars and I took a long look at him through them. He sure has changed in color. His whole head is now that red tinge to it, and it goes all the way down his back as well. He's still that same grayish fox coloring all over the rest of him, though. Look at him. I wonder what he's doing. Just then, out of the side of my eye, I noticed a young buck, white-tailed deer come out of the wood line, and Fox is stuck staring on it like a bird dog to a pheasant. John asks, "Well, it sure looks like someone's out for dinner. This should be interesting." I ask him, "What do you mean, John?" "Well, I found a few deer around here that the neck had been broken. I think we're about to find out what happened to them." Well, just then, out of nowhere, Fox takes off on a run on all 4 limbs, moving faster than the deer can realize what is coming. At the last moment, the deer looks up, but it was too late. Fox had the deer by the neck with both hands. Sitting back on the deer's haunches, he pulled back until the neck broke, killing the buck in just seconds. Oh my, it was terrifying yet amazing at the same time. John asks, "What is he doing now?" I figured he would have carried it off by now. I looked back through the binoculars. No, he's opening up the organ cavity. It looks like he's going to eat it right there. I looked back at Fox as he takes out the liver and plucks it from the deer's body and begins to take a huge bite right off of it. Only but a moment later, I noticed that the others, Daisy and the little juvenile, come out to join him. Wow, there's Daisy and the juvenile. We've also called him Rex. And the baby we now call Wonton because he's colored a very light brown. John says, "I've never seen anything like that before. Amazing. Oh, look, now they're moving off." At that moment, Fox calls out with a hoot, grabs the deer carcass by the rear legs, and the family move off back into the tree line, out of sight. It was about a year after that before we encountered them again. One night in the middle of the summer, there was a strange knock at the side door, a door we never use. I opened the door to find Fox standing at the side door and Daisy, his mate, approaching from the side. "John, come quick, it's Fox and his family." John, having never actually been this close to this Bigfoot before, was very leery as he realized just how big these beings really were. Fox filled the doorway with his torso, and his head was well above the 7-foot frame. Daisy comes forward, and she pulls the youngster off of her back and shows it to us. John cries out, "Oh my goodness, Jenny, this poor thing is all eaten up with bug bites." The little Bigfoot cries out, "It itches just everywhere." "Oh my, John, I have no idea what to do about it." Then, out of nowhere, Fox grunts out like he's trying to speak. I've been around him the most since he too was very small, and I had never heard him utter sounds like this. Finally, out of his mouth came one word: garlic. I asked John, "Did that sound like garlic to you?" John replied with a gasp, "You never said these things can talk." But yes, that is what it sounded like. I always wondered why I couldn't find any wild garlic on the property. I think now I know. I went into the kitchen and I came back with a giant bag of garlic cloves, and I handed it to Fox, who takes out a few big pieces and squishes it between his fingers and starts to rub it all over the baby, and then passes it to the juvenile that recrushes it up and rubs it all over himself. Well, this process continues for a while until all of the cloves are gone and the entire family is starting to stink like an Italian eatery on Sunday. Look at that, John. It must be some sort of bug remedy. We'll have to start growing a big patch on the property for them now. John agreed. I totally agree. It must be a natural bug begone, so to speak. Who knew? Fox once again gives off a soft hoot, and the family gathers up once more to move on. Daisy puts the smallest on her back and grabs one hand of the older sibling and begins to move towards the wood. Fox follows and stops halfway to look back. John stares at him for a moment and asks, "Did he just look at us and smile?" To which I replied, "I'm pretty sure that was his way of saying thank you." Stories from the Carter Ranch sure do have an amazing time to tell, with more encounters to come, but those are best left for another time. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you.